Welcome to DotLife, Dorchester's hyperlocal podcast with news, content, and analysis. We are here at episode 15, the final episode of season 1 with Bill Forry.
Wow, 15 already?
Crazy, isn't it?
You just started this thing like last week, it feels.
Right over there, steps away in your office. I feel so much more professional now.
You look more professional now.
I know.
You're like got the blazer on. I feel like
We started with you in a suit, and now you're wearing a button-down denim, and I'm in a suit.
ready for the rodeo today. And you're looking like very C-suite.
That's right. Well, I have a new job, so I
Congratulations.
have to look apart. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the pod in a little bit, but let's start with more important news. Training camp started this week.
For Mayor Boston or for
the Bills.
Oh, wow, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Why does it always come back to Buffalo?
It has to. Everything does.
How are they looking?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything
It's
yet.
too early.
Yeah, it's too early. The Pats go up? Are they in? Man, you are.
I checked out.
I need you to work on this for season 2. Okay.
All I do
It's going to be
is
football season for season 2.
Do you know that the Patriots almost had their first stadium in Dorchester?
No.
Where Pope John Paul II Park is now?
No way.
Yeah, that was going to be what eventually was Foxborough Schaefer Stadium.
What year is this?
It would have been in like the late 1960s.
Okay.
And they had a big fight over, like, obviously people were like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But if they had built it there, then I know everything there is to know about the New England Patriots if they had stuck it out there. And we'd probably be having a different discussion about the mayor's race too. But yeah, that's a little bit of at the time there was a drive-in movie theater and a landfill.
Okay.
In what is now Pope John Paul II Park, but it
Very nice
could have been the Patriots beating the Bills there every other year instead.
All right. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the mayoral candidates. Had a forum this week on housing. Did you go? Sounds like it was pretty toasty.
Chris Lovett went, and he's still recovering, I think, from heat exhaustion because the Reggie Lewis Center, something went wrong with the air conditioning that morning. And it was just too late to pull, to change venues or whatever.
There were a lot of people there.
There were 850 people there.
Oh, my gosh.
And God love them, they were probably, collectively lost that much weight because it was a lot. Apparently, it was actually last week. I think it was last Wednesday.
Okay.
And it was one of those really hot days, like very humid, 95-degree heat wave days. And it was a difficult event, but
was the conversation spicy as well?
It got spicy at times. Yeah, I read Chris Lovett's story this week really kind of outlines the policy difference between WU and Kraft on housing. Mm-hmm. So folks in Dorchester will know MAHA, the Mass Affordable Housing Alliance, based on Dorchester Ave. They have a regional focus and citywide focus, but they're a Dorchester organization at their roots, and they've helped thousands of people over the last few decades buy their first home and find the loan products. They have a program called the Soft Second Loan Project that's helped a lot by, sort of harnessing banks and getting them to commit to lend to people.
Friend of the pod, Seth Daniel, talked about how he bought his first home through.
Yeah. And they have a great home buyer, education program. So, they're a progressive group for sure. Mm-hmm. They've been on the vanguard of helping people stay in the city and find affordable homes. But they've been very supportive of Mayor Wu and her policies. They, in fact, want her to do more in that league. And I think it's fair to say Josh Kraft is more in the moderate lane for them. So this was probably a Wu crowd to begin with. Like maybe not everybody, and there was a standout outside of pro-Kraft sign holders and stuff. But inside the room, it was definitely folks who would be tending to be more supportive of the mayor's policies, particularly on inclusionary zoning, IDP, which is the way that a lot of affordable housing is now funded in the city. When developers come up with a project, they're required to have a certain amount of affordable housing built into those projects, or they have to contribute to a fund. And Mayor Wu's policy has extended that formula to 20% affordability now under her watch. It was about 13% under Mayor Walsh. So Josh Kraft's fundamental position is he wants to go back to the Marty Walsh era policies around housing, and wants to increase the number of approved units. They both want to do that, actually.
Okay.
Michelle Wu's, the big difference is Michelle Wu, her IDP formula is at 20%, which just means from the developer point of view, they got to put more money in for affordable housing, either put it on the project itself, add more units, or, commit to building them somewhere else in the city. So they did have some testy moments, exchange, I think, in a friendly way. Neither of them have been really, nasty to one another face to face ever that I've seen.
Just on the airwaves.
Just on the airwaves, and that can happen.
Yeah.
In this instance, it was, a friendly exchange. And it boiled down to, Michelle Wu definitely had the crowd behind her at this forum. Not a big surprise. I think Josh Kraft knew going in.
Yeah.
He's a tough sell to that audience, principally because he wants a lower threshold for affordable housing mandated. So, you can get the gist of it in Chris's piece a little bit more. But, it was an interesting week. I have to say, this news cycle has not been a good one for Josh Kraft.
Yeah, he might have also been prepared going in knowing he was behind in the polls.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure he knew for sure. And maybe, most campaigns, especially well-funded ones like Michelle Wu and Josh Kraft, will have their own internal polling, which will give them an indication what's going on. But the public polling that came out on Monday by Suffolk University and the Boston Globe showed a much bigger margin than I think a lot of us thought. 60-30. 60 for Wu, 30 for Kraft. I think the other two candidates split like 4% at the bottom, and then only 7% undecided. At this stage of the race, that's a pretty low number for undecideds. So the race has settled a lot more, I think, than people thought, and it's way more in favor of Michelle Wu than I think even those of us who were reading it as she's the likely winner.
How reliable are those polls usually?
I think they're pretty reliable.
Are they?
I have to say, like the pollsters involved in this and the earlier polls that were done this year on the mayoral cycle, both well regarded. They've done a lot of tracking polls over many, many years. Dave Paleologis is the pollster for Suffolk, and he's a well regarded and very established pollster here, especially in terms of polling into city neighborhoods.
Oh.
This is not their first time doing it. The poll they did, it was a sample size of 500, which is a very good size. Mm-hmm. It's a margin of error of, I think, 4.2%. So, to have those kind of measurements and standards, and for her to finish with a 60% margin at the moment, 30% margin, but 60-30 is a pretty bleak poll for Josh Kraft. The other thing that was surprising to me was his unfavorables were higher than hers, and by a significant amount. She had she was in the mid-20s and unfavorable, and he was in the mid-40s.
Oh, wow. Which
is really surprising given that he is a newcomer to electoral politics. He really personally isn't, that well known yet.
Yeah.
And it's a big hole to dig out of on unfavorables and with the low amount of undecideds, according to this poll.
Yeah. And voting starts soon, right? A couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, early voting starts on August 30th. That's also, I believe, the last day to register to vote for those who aren't.
Okay.
But anybody who's a voter in the city of Boston can vote. The preliminary itself is on September 9th, but anybody can vote early if they so choose. They'll be announcing those sites soon. You can definitely,
or in the ballot boxes, right, that are out.
Yeah, if you do the mail-in vote, you've asked for that, you do that. But you can also just go to any polling site that they have open those days. They'll be announced probably in the next week or two. You can go to City Hall and vote as well.
Okay.
And that'll be, August 30th. So yeah, we're really just under a month or just over a month away from this right now.
Yeah. He's got another hill to climb that I think he's maybe made himself, which is he's not releasing his tax returns.
Yeah, as of today, which is we're July 23rd, he hasn't released his tax returns. His campaign announced earlier this week that he has in fact filed for an extension, which would put that into October for this year's taxes. But he hasn't released his taxes from last year either, which is a little bit of a problem and a mystery as to why he hasn't.
Unusual?
I'd say so. I think it's, Mayor Wu obviously has released hers. It's pretty standard in mayoral elections to give voters an understanding of the obligations, the potential exposures that mayors have.
His family's financing, and and someone who's trying to not align himself with Trump, to follow in Trump's playbook seems silly.
They do have that in common at the moment, and I have to say, Kraft's campaign has said he is going to release his taxes. They've just haven't explained why they haven't released last year's taxes, which I think is a bit of a hole there. So, our editorial this week calls on him to just do it, get it done. Yeah. Frankly, most campaigns would have just gotten this over with. Right. Do it early, get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way, so if there is something a little bit unsettling in it, you can deal with that news cycle early in the campaign.
Right, not right before the election. So we'll see. And in fairness to him, perhaps there's nothing in there that's going to be problematic. Michelle Wu and her allies this week really came out heavy. Yeah. The day after this poll comes out that she's up 30 points, and she really whacked him hard on the tax issue. And the next day it's like, whoa, she's taking no prisoners on this one. But even if there's nothing in there that's problematic, it's just it's inviting scrutiny of why aren't you doing this? Right, so it'd be best for them to just get this over with.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's close out with some more new businesses. It seems to be a theme on the podcast in Dorchester. Seems to be.
Yeah, Blue Hill Avenue this time. So we teased this last week. There are 3 new businesses that Seth Daniel wrote about, one of which is open. 2 others in the pipeline. And what's interesting, too, is this is a stretch of Blue Hill Avenue that's really been revitalized just in the last year or so, or there's some new buildings coming. One of the woman on the cover of the Reporter this week is Dion Richards, who's the owner of Bondage Clothing, which is a boutique, which actually looks amazing. I haven't been in there yet, but...
Vintage clothes?
She's got a mix of vintage and new styles that she's done herself and designed, and she's actually done some, some custom denim, a lot of denim going on with her
and camo.
Yeah. So really,
too cool for me. I think I don't know.
I wouldn't say that at all.
No?
I think you could fit right in. In fact, when I saw these photos, I'm like, yeah, Erin's going to love this place.
I should go check it out.
You should check it out. And she's a Dorchester native. She grew up in the neighborhood. Went to John D. O'Brien High School. Her family's been very active in the community, and she's been doing this on her own, out of her own, her own home for years.
That's
and
cool.
She actually, Seth Daniel wrote about this, and you know how big of a hip hop head Seth Daniel is. He mentioned that she did some custom work for Eric Sermon from EPMD. So some of us older hip hop heads will appreciate that. And her store is now open at I believe it's in the 1000 block of Blue Hill Ave, so not far from Morton Street. Yeah. And this is a stretch that Seth's written about recently a couple of times because it's seen a lot of investment lately. And one of the new property owners there, she actually is also a native to Dorchester and Mattapan area. She's been able to win city bids for parcels and then build new storefronts there. And what she decided to do, which I thought was kind of a novel approach, her name, by the way, is Dariella Vilon Maga of DVM Development. And she has these 2 new storefronts, almost ready to go. And she did a lottery for local merchants to apply and win from, she had kind of a contest really to see who would be the best fits here. And 2 of them got announced at Just Bookish recently. Yeah. And so they'll be moving in as well. It's a good indicator, actually, economically here, that people want to open up shop on Blue Hill Avenue. And one of the businesses is transplanting from Jamaica Plain. The other is coming from Milton. And as I mentioned, the other store, Miss Dion Richards' store, she's coming from her own home. So it's good to see this kind of investment coming into Dorchester and Mattapan.
Yeah, definitely. One is a wellness kind of location, and then what was the other one? Do you know what the third one was?
It's a mom and pop operation, and I think it's a retail location. I can't exactly remember what their products are, but they haven't opened yet, so we haven't been able to go there and check it out.
Well,
but
we'll update when we know.
We will. And, some good news there.
Very cool. So I wanted to take a minute and just talk about the pod and see where you're at. How you feeling about it?
I'm amazed that it's a episode 15.
I know.
And it just flew by. And I have to congratulate you and your team Yazir, John too, for, being able to pull this off and build something very quickly with really your own sweat equity and ingenuity to put this together, to be able to like get the guests lined up and booked and talk to and do the research too.
Yeah.
And understand like how to interview, people who are, have a lot to talk about and a lot of history. I really enjoyed some of your segments that delved into some of that, like with Bill Walczak, for instance.
Yeah. The Ashmont Hill crew.
Yeah. Hearing from Brandy Fluker-Oakley, Fluker-Reed, forgive me, and Joel Richard, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And you've also covered a lot of ground. I think what's important about for all of us to remember is that Dorchester is a big place, a diverse place, and it's not just our own little village or corner or parish or whatever that we kind of know the best, but there's this whole, tapestry of people and places and businesses and villages that are thriving all around us. And you've unlocked a lot of that for folks, including me. Like, there's stuff I've learned watching the pod, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I
love that. Yeah. And, what I found interesting myself was, we went into this, you and I were having conversations about content, and we didn't really know if people would be into joining. There's been no shortage of interest. People are really excited to come on and talk about their topic, and we've got people already lined up for season 2.
People are knocking on your door, right? They want to be on this pod because it is novel, for one thing. Like, they're, not to say it's the only game in town or anything, but it's very unique in your hyper local focus on Dorchester, and people are, as you know, passionate about the place.
Yeah.
They really care about its future and what's going on currently, and they're curious about the past and how we got here. And we're all always learning about, kind of our rich history shared, and even the stuff that we haven't quite dived into yet. So I think you've tapped into something that is very exciting. It was needed. And how are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been great. It's more work than I think we expected it to be when we went into it, but and we've learned a lot about technology that I did not know. I was getting a crash course on editing when I started this, but been really excited by the response. I've been very grateful to you and to Bobby Boyd, obviously, at the record company, for supporting this, giving us the space and the intellect and the knowledge to support this endeavor. And really excited for the people who've listened. And, I see people on the street in the neighborhood, and they say, oh, I've got somebody who I think would be great on the pod. And that's really, it's encouraging, to have that support.
What about the music that's been on the pod? I think that's one of the cool elements that you've introduced is every single episode you've had a tiny dot.
I'm glad you brought that up. I should have mentioned this. I wasn't sure. I knew a lot of folks from Dorchfest, but would they be willing to do this? We're not paying them to come on. And to a person, they have all been enthusiastic. I've had one person tell me no. It's been unbelievable. Right. They come in with enthusiasm and joy, and they play, and it's just been great. It's been really fun.
And it's like there's no shortage of talent, right? And people are constantly moving into the neighborhood and wanting to claim us, and we want to claim them.
Absolutely.
Especially if they can play music. And, maybe what I'd love to see come out of this is this, and like you mentioned Bobby Boyd earlier and the record company, how the record co has been so critical in building an
ecosystem.
An ecosystem, and like Dorchfest too. But there's something happening here with this alignment and I think the pods had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Of getting people to, let's see what else is out there. And I hope it'll lead to venues. I hope it'll lead to, and I've already heard some chatter about this offline from folks already talking about how can we get another music venue up and running. We know that there are a couple that are routinely having live shows, and in the summertime there's some outdoor festivals and the Jazz Fest that just happened. But to have a regular sort of club scene in Dorchester would be amazing. So let's talk about that more in season 2. But great job getting the tiny dots, going so regularly. And salute to the musicians for making the time.
Yeah. We've got some great programming for next season. I'm already lining up some content about the harbors and labor unions. We've got some businesses we're going to profile. So
basically, you're going to take off August and come back in later in the
I don't
early
want
fall?
to give it an exact date. We're thinking probably September, but
Cool.
Stay tuned. There'll be content on the feed, in the meantime, so we won't be disappearing completely, but we're going to take a little time to reset and get season 2 lined up.
I think that's a fantastic idea. Catch your breath. Season 1 has been a huge success, and 15 episodes, it just flew by like that. So catch your breath. Get the team in order and give them a little downtime too. I know they've been hustling as fast as everyone. So, what else you got in mind for the rest of this episode here?
We have a couple of experts on dogs who are about to join us here in the studio, the newsroom.
In the Dorchester Reporter newsroom?
Dorchester Reporter newsroom. I hope they brought dogs. I don't know.
Let's hope so.
But we're going to do a segment on dogs in Dorchester. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.